A single missile strike near the United States Navy's Fifth Fleet headquarters has transformed this island nation from a luxury financial hub into the center of a potential global conflict. In February 2026, Bahrain became a direct military target in Operation True Promise. 4. A massive Iranian retaliatory strike following joint U.S.-Israeli attacks on Tehran's nuclear facilities. While the world watched interceptors light up the skies over Tel Aviv and Abu Dhabi, drone strikes on residential buildings in Manama and explosions near critical radar structures at the American naval base signaled a terrifying shift. The immediate stake is no longer just maritime security in the Persian Gulf. It is the physical survival of a sovereign state caught in the crossfire of a regional war. For the first time since the Gulf War of 1991, the heavy machinery of international conflict has breached the perimeter of this 300-square-mile archipelago, threatening its status as a stable hub for global commerce and sport. To understand why Bahrain is the epicenter of this military tension, we must look back to the 1991 Gulf War. During Operation Desert Storm, the U.S. 7th Corps mobilized nearly 1,500 tanks and 146,000 troops to dismantle the Iraqi threat, a campaign that solidified the permanent American military footprint in the Gulf. Bahrain's role as a strategic partner was solidified during this era, but its history of entanglement is far older. From the ancient Dilmun civilization and its Jewish merchant communities dating back to the 7th century to its 20th century status as a British protectorate, Bahrain has always been a crossroads. Historically, the nation managed its security through delicate balancing acts, hosting the U.S. Navy while maintaining local cultural autonomy and managing a diverse population that includes one of the world's smallest but oldest Jewish communities. However, the 2020 Abraham Accords fundamentally altered this balance, ending decades of official distance from Israel and setting the stage for the current friction with Tehran. The current state of Bahrain is defined by three critical pillars: military dependency, economic diversification, and educational reform. First, the U.S. Fifth Fleet remains the dominant force serving as the central hub for maritime security across the Persian Gulf, Red Sea, and Arabian Sea. Second, the economy is aggressively pivoting away from oil, focusing on high-end tourism and international events like the Formula One Grand Prix, though this sector is now under threat from regional instability. Third, the domestic landscape is shifting through educational restructuring. Institutions like the University of Bahrain and Bahrain Polytechnic are being forced to adapt to a reality where IT skills and self-directed study are often prioritized over traditional degrees to meet the demands of a volatile market. Even the technical world of Formula One reflects this change, with new 2026 engine regulations and compression ratio tests highlighting Bahrain's role as a testing ground for global technological standards, even as missiles loom on the horizon. The conflict in Bahrain creates a sharp divide between two strategic schools of thought. On one side, proponents of the current alignment argue that the U.S. military presence and the Abraham Accords provide the only viable shield against regional dominance. They believe that without the security umbrella of the Fifth Fleet, Bahrain would be vulnerable to the same fate as other regional states that have lost sovereignty to proxy wars. For them, the 2026 strikes are a reason to deepen, not sever, these alliances. Conversely, the neutrality advocates argue that the presence of foreign military bases has effectively turned the Bahraini civilian population into a human shield for Western interests. They predict that as long as Bahrain hosts the assets used to strike Iran, the island will remain a primary target, leading to a flight of capital, the collapse of the tourism industry, and a permanent state of emergency that outweighs any security benefit. Looking forward, the path for Bahrain involves three inevitable steps. First, the nation will likely see a massive investment in air defense systems, moving toward a state of constant readiness similar to northern Israel. Second, expect a legal and diplomatic pivot. Bahrain may seek new international security guarantees that include non-Western powers to dilute its profile as a U.S. outpost. Finally, the educational and social sectors will continue to decentralize, with a growing emphasis on remote work and self-directed IT training as physical campuses become vulnerable during periods of high tension. The Bahrain of tomorrow will be a fortress of technical and financial innovation, but its survival depends on whether it can remain a gateway for the world while its neighbors remain at war.